One of South Florida's newly drawn.
Okay. Oh, this is a fun one. Oh, no more. Oh, no, please, not more water. Okay. Back on election coverage. And this is a really fun video. I know exactly what this is. I've watched most of this interview. This interview is fucking insane because it starts off and you can tell this woman's a right-wing, reporter. It's a contentious interview, but it's fine. She's being very fair as a reporter. And then she just goes fucking off the wall and starts, saying that there's no genocide going on in Gaza. It's fucking insane. We got to watch this. I'll have comments to make along the way, but that part is the insane
Congressional districts is ground zero for this question. Does democratic socialism resonate in South Florida? Primary results in other states reflect increasing support that comes with increasing frustrations over the costs of health care and housing and income disparities. The new District 25 stretches north-south all along South Florida's East Coast communities from Miami Beach up to Delray Beach with a couple of jogs inland. The incumbent Congressman Jared Moskowitz, he was with us last week. His primary challenger is Democrat Oliver Larkin, a member of and endorsed by...
Aiden, Mark just went and voted. Did you go vote? If Mark went and voted and you didn't, that's going to be really embarrassing for you. I hope you went and voted.
By the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. Oliver Larkin is right here at the table live with us today. So nice to have you on the program. Thanks so much for coming in.
Wonderful to be joining you, Glenna.
2 days for some really interesting results that I think a lot of people are watching and going to learn from. I want to start with you, though. You have been in politics a lot, worked for Bernie Sanders, organizer, union organizer. What right now, right here, what do you do for a living?
I'm a digital marketing consultant.
Oh, okay.
I've worked in political marketing and digital advertising with Democratic candidates, campaigns, unions, and I've done that at various agencies over the course of 10 years.
Drink water.
In January of 2025, I opened my own LLC and began working for myself, helping candidates locally. And it wasn't before long that a few people approached me about running for this race. So I know advertising, I know return on investment, and I think that's what taxpayers are looking for.
And boy, isn't marketing so much a part of candidacies now?
Sure
always.
Is.
So how did you get involved with, you've been a Democrat, how did you get involved with the DSA? Because I don't think the Democrat Socialists of America were as part of the conversation of any campaign that I can remember in my tenure as a reporter. How did you get involved with that?
Yeah, I became a Democrat at 16 when Barack Obama was running for president the first time. I was a high school motor voter, getting my voter registration with my driver's license. But I started identifying with democratic socialism when I began volunteering and then working on Senator Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign. And I formally joined the organization in 2020 at the height of a once-in-a-century healthcare pandemic, when I did not see the Democratic Party fighting for Medicare for all, when we were all relying on one another for our collective well-being. I felt that it was important to build a parallel power structure to the Democratic Party that was really more responsive to the needs of ordinary Americans.
And we'll get into all of those kind of issues. I really want to look at D25 right now, brand new district, a pretty split district by design by Florida Republican lawmakers who wanted to make it a bit tougher for incumbent Moskowitz to have a race.
Which is
so
insane,
the word
because Moskowitz,
socialism, let's talk about marketing.
Is basically a fucking Republican. Just so you guys are aware. Let's talk about Jared Moskowitz. He said he was to the right of J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio on foreign policy.
What I would like to see actually is a little tougher language coming out of the Trump administration. I'm to the right of this issue to the J.D. Vance Witkoff approach, and I agree, quite frankly, more with Senator Lindsey Graham and probably Senator Tom Cotton.
Right. He was appointed by DeSantis.
I'm a twice appointed Ron DeSantis Democrat.
He's basically a Republican. It's just fucking insane.
The word socialism in South Florida, to many people, is just a non-starter. These are people who came from socialist dictatorships, who have a first-hand perspective of socialism as a failure. How do you speak to these people, many of whom are going to live in this district? This district is...
Ridiculous way to word this question, but he has a really good answer.
heavily Hispanic. How do you explain yourself to them?
Yeah, the operative word is democratic, that I want popular collective input over the systems that govern our lives. And I believe in multi-party democracy. I believe in upholding our civil and constitutional rights, which many people fled places like Cuba or Nicaragua, as my wife's parents did back in the 1980s, looking for a better life in the United States of America. And I believe that our policies are actually more supportive of people trying to achieve the American dream, making sure that employer-based health insurance is not an encumbrance to people starting their own small business, their entrepreneurships. And I think that when we look at what the fears of socialism are, we actually see the repression of social and political rights emanating from the Trump administration. And I think
The other thing is, with many of those countries, especially Cuba, it's the embargoes, the trade embargoes, different things like that. It's the things that we have done to those countries that have made them be in the position that they are. It's fucking ridiculous to put the blame on the country when, like, yeah, there are certain faults, but it's us that has, even North Korea. North Korea has a ton of issues. There's a ton of bad going on there. But North Korea, most of the reason that they're so poor is because of what we have done to their country.
I think what the most popular policies that democratic socialists are running on, like Medicare for all, raising the minimum wage to a living wage, it really addresses the cost of living concerns that many in South Florida, including our Latino residents, have.
And the devil is in the details and those things. Again, I want to.
By the way, universal healthcare, Medicare for all, it shouldn't be controversial. We're the only country in the world. There are so many poorer countries than us that have universal healthcare. It's fucking ridiculous. Could socialist Mamdani fix Parody Island? Socialist. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Can he beat Goku? Bro, have you seen the work he's doing in fucking New York? It'd be like, hey, Mamdani, can you come beat Goku? And he'd be like, oh, certainly. I'll be right there. And then it'd be done before the end of the day. That's all I'm saying. But universal healthcare is provided fucking everywhere. To sit here and call this a radical ideal, to sit here and call this a socialist platform is fucking insane. Canada has it. Mexico has it. Almost every country in Europe has it. It's fucking crazy. This is a ridiculous. This is such an Americanized thing to be anti-healthcare and to be anti-universal healthcare.
I want to talk about that, but I really worked hard for our interview today to define for myself, what does this mean? Because, I think we try to get out of the political rhetoric and the propaganda. I really want to know factually, what does all of this mean? And you tell me if this is valid. U.S. markets create wealth, and then the government supplies some of the, well, hopefully all of the safety net.
It generates wealth to wealthy people by making other people poor.
In democratic socialism, the market creates wealth, and then taxes and regulation spread it out for everyone's benefit. Does that sound valid to you?
I think that's a fair characterization. I think that we have a system currently with quite...
Not evenly. It's not a spreading out of wealth evenly. Not everyone's going to have the same amount of money. It's, as she did word, to everyone's benefit, meaning social programs, roads, healthcare, childcare, schooling, things like that.
Quite low corporate and higher earner income and tax rates. And I want to see us restore much of the mid-20th century top marginal tax rates, making sure that we're closing tax loopholes so that we're actually having equitable payment into the systems that are very popular, like Medicare, like Social Security, but that do not provide the full spectrum of care.
Guys, Oliver Larkin just liked my story promoting my stream. This is this guy. Shout out Oliver Larkin. If you're in District 25, you have an hour. Go get in line. Go vote.
So I think that that's an accurate way to represent it.
All right, so let's get into Medicare for all. Everybody needs health care. Not everyone gets the health care they need.
Aiden, you have
That's
until
just a
7
fact
o'clock.
the
Go get in
United
line.
States. A function of money is involved in health care. But there's also the pharmaceutical industrial complex. It is a big business. Translate for me a very utopic idea of everybody getting the very best health care they need for free.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Mexico's a utopia. Canada's a utopia. Fucking Norway and Sweden are utopias. Yeah, bro. Like, what are we talking about? These are things that exist everywhere fucking else besides, like, here.
Not only paying for it, because that's always everyone's question, and that's a big one, but incentivizing the people working in it to be the best doctors, not overwhelmed with the medical needs of people who are so sick. Talk to people who have to pay for the person who smokes and drinks and doesn't eat well and is terribly unhealthy.
What? So, what you're saying now, this is wrong, by the way. What she's saying is that they are not overwhelmed now. Mark, as someone who has seen the medical field in person, would you say that the workload is not overwhelming to many healthcare professionals? I don't know that, I wouldn't say that they're whelmed. I think overwhelmed is a pretty valid word to use. I think there's plenty of evidence to show that. But what she's saying, right, is that they're not overwhelmed because we're letting poor people die. We're letting poor and sick people die. But if we give everyone health care, then the unhealthy people will be getting care and not the people with money have a comfortable, healthy lifestyle. No, like that's actually what she's saying. What? We're letting the sick and poor people die, and then that way that means that doctors are going to be not overwhelmed. Whereas if we, help everyone, then they're going to be overwhelmed. First of all, they're overwhelmed regardless. That's fucking ridiculous to say that they are not overwhelmed. And also, we're just letting poor people die. Like, what are we talking about?
When the person who's paying for it is very conscious of
Dead
their
people
health.
equal less work for doctors.
Take me through those
True.
little details of getting to where you want to be.
Yeah, I think when we look at insurance pools as a whole, it's having the broadest possible risk pool, the same way that when we look at the fragmentation of the property insurance market in Florida and these sky-high rates that people are dealing with, we're suffering from the same issue with the healthcare marketplace currently, where there's what we hear is that we want competition, but what that really means is that there are few private health insurance industries that really have a monopoly over the marketplace and are able to charge whatever they want, not just to consumers or people in need of health care, but to hospitals, to the places that need to reimburse for these costs. So what I would like to see in the United States, which is the wealthiest nation on earth, not to guarantee healthcare is a right, and we pay twice as much per capita as other peer nations with similar incomes with worse outcomes. So I want to see us make sure that Medicare is expanded to cover everyone, expanded and improved, including coverage for vision, hearing, mental health care, reproductive health care. And
you want to see that, but that's a wholesale change. Does that, practically speaking, do you see that as a possibility in the way you're speaking about it?
I do. The phase-in of a Medicare for all system would lower the Medicare eligibility age from 65 to 55 to 45 until it eventually within a few years covers everyone. This is actually a more cost-effective way of delivering healthcare for people because we wouldn't have premiums, deductibles, co-payments, or out-of-pocket costs, and the enormous administrative costs that healthcare providers, that doctors and nurses spend so much time getting claims covered or going back and forth with the insurance paperwork. That takes away from their actual capacity to deliver this care.
Talk to me about ICE. You've said you want to defund ICE.
And nurses, yeah.
ICE right now in the news for things that go wrong. However, Immigration and Customs Enforcement is a critical part of placing that with what?
We had a system of immigration enforcement prior to 2003 with the establishment of DHS. And
if ICE is keeping us safe, what are the police doing? Aiden, funny you should bring that up. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about with what's going on in Tampa. There's some really important information going on with ICE. We're going to have to talk about that very soon. It is fucking insane, but we'll get back to that.
And ICE being created, the United States was able to function for well over 2 centuries with a more civil administration over the immigration system.
Okay, let me just stop you there. So
INS existed for years. I'm pretty sure I am older than ICE. I think everyone, almost everyone in this chat is older than ICE. Josh, I'm not so sure. There's been plenty of time in this country where we have not had
back to a pre-President Trump policy.
I want to abolish ICE. I do not think that a militarized immigration
and
enforcement agency is necessary when there are violations of the immigration policy of this country. These are civil violations. They're not criminal.
It's like jaywalking.
They don't need criminal enforcement or militarized enforcement.
What I would like to shoot people is a system with jaywalking.
Much
it's fucking
more
ridiculous.
Capacity for immigration courts to adjudicate and process asylum claims and process people to make sure that there is documentation. I want to have a safe and secure border. That means a humane border where people are not risking their lives to come to the United States of America. I want to make sure that people, when they come into the United States, they're duly processed and they receive their paperwork so that they're able to pay and contribute to society and really achieve the American dream. We know that immigrants are more predisposed to entrepreneurship, to small business ownership. They pay taxes into systems they don't always have the eligibility to receive the benefits from. So we need immigrants in our society. And I think that if we have a more holistic and humane approach to immigration enforcement, I think that's going to be to the betterment of not just those of us.
No, I don't think I've shown it. There might be a clip. If someone's actually able to link it, there's a clip of Oliver Larkin where he gets asked how many he gets asked about ICE. Think this is it?
What is the number that is fine with you? Is there a benchmark? Is it fine? How many children can be raped and it's fine if you're in relation to the immigration community?
If we're going to talk about children being raped, then we need to hold this pedophile president, Donald Trump, accountable, and all those that have been implicated by the Epstein files that the Department of Justice is still not leaking. They've sent AIPAC after Thomas Massey for having the temerity to hold accountable the pedophiles that are in control of our government.
Thank you. We appreciate your time very much.
That's my fucking goat right there. He's handled this issue so well every time he's been asked. What is it?
In South Florida, but to immigration enforcement, I think that's going to be to the betterment of not just those of us in South Florida, but across the country.
Another big issue that's going to be
to the betterment of holistic and humane approach to immigration enforcement. I think that's going to be to the betterment of not just those of us in South Florida, but across the country.
Another big issue that's going to be in 25, where I think the statistic is 1 in 4 voters in D25 is Jewish.
This is the interesting one. We just got to the most interesting part of the video. This is fucking insane how this goes.
You have said you want to essentially defund Israel. Israel, one of many countries that the U.S. contributes to. How are you going to explain to your Jewish voters that you would like to essentially put Israel in an existential threat?
First of all, Jewish does not equal Israeli. It's fucking ridiculous.
I look at this as making sure that we actually practice democracy abroad as well as at home. And when the nation-state law in Israel was passed in, I believe, 2018, that created a much more tiered system of citizenship that privileges Jewish citizens above Palestinians. I don't believe it is in the United States' interest to support that. And we've also got our own laws on the books, the Leahy laws, that prohibit the military funding from the Department of Defense and Department of State from providing.
Let me just stop you for 1 second. That actually is factually incorrect. There was
She's wrong.
Not a Palestinian state in 18. What I want to talk about is the here and now of the state of Israel exists in 1948, which actually was supposed to be a two-state solution and then rejected by the Arab states. But here and now, a large chunk of the funding that goes to Israel is defensive funding for Iron Dome, or other defensive. And then military funding greatly increased after the October 7th massacre. So I guess my question to you is, taking away Israel's money, which actually is a much more complicated equation because Israeli tech and the economic benefits that come back to the U.S. for job creation is all part and parcel of that, which not a lot of people talk about.
Oh, we get so many benefits by bombing children in fucking Gaza. Like, what?
But taking away
fucking
a defensive mechanism for a state which has an existential threat all around it, stated by the terrorists who want to annihilate it. You're essentially taking away defense. And I think that's a very important thing for viewers in your district, because that's what they want to hear.
There's no difference between offensive and defensive
Israel
weapons.
is committing a genocide in Gaza.
Okay, wait. I'm going to let this play out. I'm going to let it play out.
Let's
watch
talk
this.
about why.
Israel is committing a genocide in
That's
Gaza.
incorrect. That is factually incorrect.
It has
That's
been regarded
propaganda.
by the United Nations and Amnesty International and even Israeli human rights organizations, including B'Tselem. There's
The
a number
definition of genocide in the UN has said this, does not apply to what many people might think as a disproportionate wartime action. That's what that is in many people's minds. Genocide is a very specific thing. Actually, genocide being committed against.
This is an award-winning reporter, by the way. I think she's won Emmys for her reporting or something like that. Something like crazy like that. Just straight up wrong. She issued an apology for this because 10 News knows they don't want to fucking be behind a blatant lie like that, a blatant just false statement. Yeah, it's a genocide. And the UN has defined it as a genocide. Tons of human rights organizations, every major human rights organization has defined it as a genocide, including Israeli organizations, human rights organizations have defined it as a genocide. So sit here and say that it's false, that it's not a genocide is fucking insane.
It's Jewish people, not by Israel. And that's just a fact.
I mean,
against Jewish people, not by Israel. That's what.
She's literally saying it's only a genocide when it's against Jewish people. Listen.
That is, in many people's minds. Genocide is a very specific thing. Actually, genocide being committed against Jewish people, not by Israel. And that's just a fact.
I mean,
What? The literal only people not defining it as a genocide are the people perpetuating the genocide. No, genuinely. Israeli organizations define this as a genocide. To sit here and say it's not a genocide is fucking crazy. Glenna Milberg has... Okay, wait. Let me double check this. Hold on. She's an Emmy award-winning journalist. She had to issue an apology for this. She won a fucking Emmy for her reporting, and she's sitting here just fucking lying.
United
just
Nations
being dead fucking
recently in
wrong.
Geneva
Look,
found
hold
that
on.
the IDF.
I'll pull it up. Everything that's coming up is about this, but is this it? Look. Emmy award-winning journalist. What are we talking about? just being fucking blatantly wrong. Whatever. Let's continue. I'm gonna close this on here. Actually, I could put this here. That's what I'll do. Okay.
Had deliberately targeted women and children. There's been famine conditions imposed over the Gaza Strip by the blockading of aid entering the Strip. There's been indiscriminate bombing of hospitals, of mosques, of churches.
Again, I'm going to have to stop you, as that is factually not correct.
She's wrong again.
But I hear you talking about something very important to a lot of people, and certainly who think that way. But as a congressman, and I'm being told we have to wrap. But as a congressman for District 25, I'm hoping your viewers will be able to hear you.
I wonder if they caught her because
as well as
they already knew she was
Medicare
wrong.
for all and universal education. And we'll see you on the other side of Tuesday. Thank you so much.
She was told they had to wrap. I wonder if like they literally cut her off because they're like, "Yo, you're wrong." I'm not sure.
For coming in.
Thanks so much for having me, Glenna.
If you do
Fucking
make it to
insane.
Congress, you know, you're going to have to.
Fucking insane.
Cookie.